Welcome to Writer's Den. I'm Brenda Joyce Patterson. Writer's Den is a program that uncovers and showcases writers and all things literary in Polk County and beyond. Today we have author Lakisha Spletzer.
Hey, how are you, Brenda?
Hey there, hey there. So, well, this is going to be a fun conversation because we know each other.
Yes, we do.
Yes, and we've talked a lot about writing and everything. So, let's get started.
Okay.
NaNoWriMo. Talk to me. What's NaNoWriMo?
NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, and it occurs in November, every November. And for 30 days, the goal is to write 50,000 words. Now, we do have a youth program as well as an adult program. The youth program, they get it a little easier because we don't want to scare them. So if you're 17 and under, you get to choose your word count. It could be anything from, 200 words to, if you're ambitious, 50,000. But once you're 18, we're going to treat you like an adult, and we're going to go for the 50,000 goal.
Right. That's a good thing. In fact, the first time that you and I met, you came and you were talking to me about NaNoWriMo,
Yes.
which is why we began it. And you are a ML or a municipal liaison?
Yes, that is correct. It's kind of like being a team leader, your supervisor, so to speak. Nano, it has regions. We call it Nano for short, so that way we don't have to do the mouthful.
Right.
But they have regions. And so I'm in charge of a region, not Lakeland's region. You do have your own ML. But I came from a different county in Florida, and I had been in charge running their program there. And it's been 6 wonderful years being an ML, so it's a pretty cool job. A little bit of work involved, but it's still great because you get to network, you get to meet people that have written, people that are thinking about writing, people that are in the process of writing, and all the different stages in between. We're responsible for doing kickoff parties, which is basically a big event to go, hey, guess what? Nano's around the corner, come on down, let's get our creative juices going, let's get ready. Here's some tips and tricks to make the month a little bit easier on you, because I'm not gonna lie, 50,000 words, that's a little steep and it scares people. The first time I ever did Nano was in 2008.
Right.
And I remember thinking, oh my God, I've got to do 50,000 words. But at the time I was working on this lovely book here. So this was actually my very first Nano book that I started. Yes, this one right here.
Tell us the title of that one.
This one is called We're Love, is the name of the series. It is a dark paranormal romance shapeshifter story. Okay. So it is designed for young adults and of course adults who read it and enjoy it. But it was my first time trying to actually attempt a book of that magnitude. Right. It's way more than 50,000 words, just so you guys know. But I did try and fell short of the goal. So I am living proof that you can do Nano, not hit your 50,000, but yet still continue to write, to work on your craft, and then eventually you can get published. So it was a learning experience.
Right. In case you're wondering, most novels actually aren't 50,000 words. They're quite a bit more. I think the range is about 70,000 to more, 100,000. So NaNoWriMo is just a way to get words on the page. Never think that when you finish NaNoWriMo that your book is finished. It's not. It just means there's more work to be done.
Oh yes. It definitely is the spewing of your thoughts out on paper. It's serious, but it's not serious. You want to have fun with it. When you first do it, you're gonna be stressed. I can't tell you not to stress because you're gonna stress. Good God, 50,000 words in 30 days. Keisha, are you nuts? Right. No, I'm not. It's doable. In fact, they even have it down to a science. So in order to hit your 50,000 words, you do 1,667 words a day. That's your average. You can do more, you can write less, but you just want to make sure you try to get as close to your 50,000 as you can by November 30th.
Right. I still haven't done that.
I'm
other
gonna convert
things.
you this year. We're gonna do it.
I do other things. And I'll mention some of the other things that I do. But first, I want to say the part that I like about Nano is the community.
Yes.
It's the idea that you're not writing in this little vacuum. You're not writing in your garret by yourself. You're writing with other people. Those other people can be online. But the cool part is that those other people can be in the room with you, everybody eating way too much whatever, cookies, potato chips, pizza, whatever is easy. But that's the cool part. You have people scribble, scribble, scribble right there beside you. And I like that. The Nano sort of world is pretty amazing, I think. They have all kinds of initiatives, things online. Just quickly tell us about what you do online. What's the kinds of things you do online?
Well, online, the company started, it is a nonprofit organization, but they started way back in the 90s.
Yes.
And it was a group of wannabe writers, and that's how they actually have it in their little story, wannabe writers, who didn't like writing in a bubble, you know.
Yes.
And they said, man, why don't we just get together, let's make it fun. Let's be crazy and just make it fun. Right. And that's how it started. And it's grown from California, because that's where they are based out of, to internationally. So all during November, 24 hours a day, somebody somewhere in the world is participating in Nano and they're writing. They have forums. They do online sprints, which I'll explain in just a second. They have donation drives. They have, and this funds their young writers program as well. Right. They do merchandise sales. I mean, they do a lot of things to promote writing. They send us, the ML's kits, to help us go out into our communities and, you know, hey, let's go to the cafe and see if they'll host a write-in, which is what Brenda was referring to earlier, where we all kind of sit in a room or a restaurant or, you know, wherever you may find yourself, and we write. And it's a great moment because you're not alone. Used to, when you were a writer, it was a lonely profession, because that's actually the term that they use. And now it's more of a community group, you know, it takes a whole neighborhood to raise a kid kind of thing. Right. Well, that's what's going on with the Nano community. And that's the best thing ever, so that if you don't have people in your life that understand your passion, that understand that drive to write, right, you will find them online. You will find them in the Nano community, and you make lifelong friends. I've got so many friends now that I've met online through the Nano that it's great. I mean, they're published writer, they're, you know, thinking about writing, they're kind of like me, they've done some stuff. So, you know, it's great to go, hey, you want to write today? And have someone go, yeah, let's write today. Yeah. So it's nice.
And I'm glad that you said that. One of my big things is community. In fact, whatever writing that I have done, both published and non-published, I think I can trace directly back to having a community. In fact, I work at Lakeland Public Library in my day job, and because community is such an important thing, I've compiled a list of writers groups, not only in Lakeland but in Polk County. So, you know, if you're looking for a group and you don't know how to get started, you can call me at Lakeland Public Library, 834-4276, and I will get you that list. Because I think as a writer, you can't truly develop until you come out and sort of play nicely with other people. Yes. Don't you think?
You do have to have experience, and knowing people in the business, you know, they always say that's the first step, you know, network, yes, because there's always going to be moments that your knowledge is missing something.
Yes.
whether it's just how to write, like the actual just basics of writing, all the way up to, you know, how to get published or how to market yourself so that people know that you're out there, and everything in between. So you have to have that communication going on and that networking.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's very true. I'm going to go back just a teeny bit. I mentioned that there were other things that you could do, other sort of corporate things that you can do besides Nano. And because, yes, I'm a poet, and I love to tell people I'm a poet, because poetry is really important to me. The poets have something similar to NaNoWriMo. It's called NaPoWriMo, and it's National Poetry Writing Month, which is in April, surprise. And we do something similar. You choose a topic. Well, you choose a goal, I should say. You choose a goal. Instead of it being 50,000 words like it is in Nano, yes, every time I say that, it just kind of freaks me out. 50,000 words. Instead of that, the poets do something different. They can choose to set what they want to do, what their goal is for the end of the month. And actually, Nano, you can do that too, but we'll talk about that after this. And so what I've done is I've chosen, last year I chose to write a poem a day. And I thought, I can't do this, which is very similar to what you say about Nano, is that you think, I can't do this. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the month, maybe you did 50,000 words, or maybe you did 30,000 words, but you put pen to paper. And the same thing with me saying, I'm going to write a poem a day. I did, and I actually kept it up for about 6 months. So I've got well over 200 and something poems now. Not all of them good, though. Just a couple of them are pretty good. But that's one of the ways that you can sort of get pen to paper. And NaPoWriMo does something similar to Nano, which is that they have sprints, they have gatherings where people get together and write poetry together. And truly, I have to say, that's the thing. It's the community. I just really love the community. So I think I would be a little remiss if I have you here and I don't ask you about your beginnings as a writer.
Well, I'll tell you my beginnings about a writer, but I do want to go back really quick to Nano, and there is something called Nano Rebels, which I'm going to throw in really fast, and then I'll talk about my beginnings really quick. Yes. But Nano Rebels was born out of writers who don't fit the traditional fiction mode, because that's what Nano was really for, was fiction writers. And what I mean by fiction, for those that might not know, is, you know, sci-fi, mystery, romance. These are what we call, you know, the fictional genres, not limited to those. Nonfiction, however, covers everything else. So like your technical manuals, your poetry, you know, essays, news articles, all that's considered nonfiction. So you had those that wrote in those fields, and they were like, well, what about us?
Right.
And the Nano community went, oh yeah, you know, we love you too, come on. So they started the Nano Rebels. And Nano Rebels, they do set their own goals. You're still participating during November. Right. You're still trying to hit whatever goal you've set for yourself. Right. But now they're not isolated, they're not, you know, left out in the cold. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well, about the Nano Rebels. And then other events that they do too, if you're intimidated by the whole, you know, 50,000, they have Camp Nano. Camp Nano is in April and July of every year. Mm-hmm. And we form camps. So we actually have, like, this is Camp Lakisha or Camp Brenda.
Right.
And anybody can join. Mm-hmm. You set your goals. You set your goal. This is the only time that you get to, within the system, set your own goals. So if you're like, I need 5,000 words, guess what? 5,000 words. Hey, I'm feeling ambitious. Let me do that 50K again. Guess what? Go for it. But they do it those 2 months as well. So technically, you kind of got like a 3 month throughout the year where you can hit 50,000 if you're ambitious. But 2 of those months, you can set your own goal. So yeah. Just wanted to throw that out there before we went past it.
Right. Beginnings.
I I first started writing when I was 8 years old. The first thing I ever published, because it is a form of publication, was in a PTA-sponsored arts contest. So you could write, you could draw, you could create, just it had to be artistic. And I was 8 years old, and my mom kept a little piece of paper. It's on regular notebook paper, and it was fantasy, and it was about an elf and a little girl, who was me, because that's what you write about when you're young, who went meandering through her apartment that she lived in, trying to find the fruit that had been stolen out of the fruit bowl that was for snacks. And she finds it in the closet with an elf, and that was the story.
Of course. And you started early with the fantasy.
I started early with the fantasy. I got an honorable mention with that one, which my mom was totally surprised, and so was I. But I continued writing just in class, nothing major, because back when I was, and I know I look really young, guys, but I'm way older than what I look. Back then, the writing community and all the online stuff didn't exist. That wasn't, even back there. So we just wrote in class. They had creative assignments. You do that. I did a lot of poetry in high school. I did things called fan fiction. And for those that don't know what that is, fan fiction was born out of writers wanting to pay homage to their favorite TV shows, favorite artists, favorite famous people. And you would take these established universes or the person, and you crafted your own story around them. Great examples of fan fiction in current time that have become big sensations is 50 Shades of Grey was based off of a Twilight fanfic, of all things.
Right.
So, it is doable to start in fan fiction and then kind of segue, into actual regular fiction. So I did all those kinds of things early in life. Then I moved from my home state of Virginia here to Florida, and ended up becoming interested in writing thanks to a librarian who saw me checking out a ton of books and asked, do you write? At the time, nothing of this magnitude, just still poetry. And I said, yeah, a little poetry. She says, come with me, and goes, boop, pushes me in the room and said, she's all yours, and walks away. So I was, everyone's like, oh my God, that's horrible. No, it was startling, but not horrible. There were 7 wonderful individuals in that room. They were a writing critique group. They said, come on down. And now the rest is history, because here I am all these years later, and I have written quite a few books. And so that's like literally the writing journey for me, like how I got into okay, let's try to get published. And Nano was also a part of that journey, because it was introduced in that county the year after I joined the writing critique group. It was when they created their region.
Okay.
I didn't get to participate for the first couple of years because of personal things and welcoming my second child and a lot of other crazy stuff. But 2008 was my official debut into Nano and the writing.
That's what we librarians are good for, is dragging people kicking and screaming to the thing that will change their life. Yes, yes.
Thank you, all of you, really. Some of my favorite memories are from librarians, actually. So, they'd find that book, or, hey, Keisha, you're a reader. This is something new, which I want to stress for those that write. Even if you're not the best reader, or you don't want to read a lot, you should read, especially if you're going to write fiction, just to kind of know what's out there. There's never anything new under the sun. There's variations under the sun, and there's a new spin maybe, but nothing fully new. And so it helps to kind of hone your craft by reading what's out there, and learning from those that are out there that are published.
Tell us a little bit about your books, because you have how many?
I have 11 published books at the moment.
Let me do that again.
The first book that I actually published, I don't have with me today, unfortunately, because I had no copies at my house, sorry. But it was a online writing competition. And the theme was space opera, which is Star Wars, Star Trek, that kind of vein. I was like, oh yeah, my genres, man. And so and it was a novella. So novellas typically run about 25,000 to 35,000 words.
Right.
So way less than the nano goal. And I thought, okay, I got this.
Right.
Well, I kind of procrastinated because I was really good for that back in the day. And the week before it was due, I sat down and wrote 35,000 words in 7 days. Didn't edit it, that's not the way to go about it, just saying. So I did a mini nano in a week.
Oh my God.
Which is crazy, and I'll never do it again. But I did it and turned it in, and then once it got emailed, to the publisher, because it was a romance publisher, and they wanted to have a romantic, 12-month series of novellas with space opera for the theme. I sent it off, and I thought, oh man, I did real basic editing. It probably is not all that great. And you know what? I think that story actually needs to be longer. So it's the only time in my life that I ever wished to be rejected for anything. And I did. They sent back and said, thank you for applying, but we're not going to take you today. And I was like, yes. And sat down and went to work, and it ended up being 52,000 words after I sat down and just hashed out the spewage and kind of went through it. And it was my first one that actually got published. But the first book that was completed was this one here.
Okay.
So yeah, they were done concurrently. It was really crazy.
What was the title of that very first one?
The first
again?
one's called Jules, like Jules, and that's the name of the main character too. So it's very much sci-fi, but it does have the sci-fi and the mystical powers, because I like my powers.
I understand that.
We love the powers.
And what's the name of this one that was your first book?
This
again?
one is called Dusk Conspiracy. The name of the series is Weird Love. This one I have the most books. There's 4 of the 5 are out, and 3 of the 4 were nano books. The second book was not a nano book because it was started way before nano, but the other 3, book 1, 3, and 4 that just came out, all nano books. All nano books. Yes.
And we can find your books on Amazon?
You can find them on Amazon. You can actually go to the local Books A Million. They have to order them because they don't keep them in stock.
Right.
But you can order them that way. If you're an ebook fan and you're like, hey, I love paper, but save the trees, you can get it on Amazon, Smashwords. I mean, pretty much any of your major retailers. The iBookstore, they're there too. So anywhere you want to look for them.
All right, cool. And I'm glad that you were talking about all these contests and you read something, a description, write a book, write a story about this. This leads into one of my favorite things, prompts. Yes. And I am introducing this not because I think I'm so spiffy with prompts, but the fact that you came to the writing group that I put together at Lakeland Public Library. She came to the writing group, and you've started.
I've started another book based on a writing prompt. So, and it's also not one of my normal genres, so that's going to be even crazier for me.
That's okay.
It's really scary. So I will throw that out there. I've been very bold with my fantasy, my sci-fi, and everything, but this is actually going to be a genre that I don't normally write in, so it's going to be interesting. Very interesting.
Writing groups, it's the best thing ever. Mm-hmm. They get you to come out of your comfort zones and do things that you never thought that you'd be able to do. Community. Don't forget community. Well, we could talk forever, and we actually do talk forever.
Yes, we do.
Off camera. All things writing. I love it. But I'm going to take this opportunity to sort of close things up, but also open things up. We're closing with Lakisha. Thank you so much for coming today.
Oh, you're welcome. I had fun.
Appreciate it. You and all of your 11 books. Maybe one day you'll force me to do something.
I'll be stalking you from the back corner.
All right. That will
Lean
work.
over your shoulder, Brenda.
I know. It's crazy. But we're closing this, but I want to sort of open the idea that if you're a person out there that is interested in writing but is a little afraid, don't be. Come on, join us. The water's fine. And I just want to say thank you so much for being with us here today. in the writer's den.